A few years ago, I was at an amusement park with my son, and we decided to ride the biggest roller coaster in the park. So when it's time, we're walking up, he looks at me and he says, I think I've changed my mind. I'm not sure I want to ride anymore. Well, he changed his mind, but I hadn't changed my mind. I really wanted to ride the ride. So I told him, hey buddy, you close your eyes and you put your head down, and this will be over before you know it. We get on the ride and he closes his eyes and kind of looks at me, so I close my eyes too. We ride the ride. It was good. So we pull in at the end, and you know what happens. You're exiting the ride, and you can see and hear the other riders comparing notes. Did you see it? Were you scared? Was it good? Do you want to ride again? Well, I'll tell you, we looked at each other, and for sure we knew we hadn't seen it. I definitely didn't know if it was cool. We had all been on the same ride, but we did not all have the same experience. That roller coaster ride is a metaphor for life. And the same two choices you have in the way that you live your life are the same two choices you have in how you ride a roller coaster. You know what they are. You can ride a roller coaster with your hands up and your eyes open, watching the journey unfold. Or you can close your eyes and you can put your head down and it'll be over soon. Because we're already on the roller coaster ride of life. And it's got highs and lows, and it's got twists and turns. It's got really scary parts. It's got really good parts. There are times you may not want to ride, and then there are times that you can't believe you get to ride. And in all the times I've spent with people who are dying, in my life as a gerontologist and in my role as a caregiver, I will tell you this. In the end, everybody's sad that it's over. Nobody wants that ride to end. But the people who move through life with their eyes open and their hands up, when that time comes, they marvel at the journey. And the ones who move through with their eyes closed, they get to a place where they look back with such deep regret. It's really hard. Well, the theme of your conference is Memento Mori, and you might be asking yourself, what does Memento Mori have to do with a roller coaster ride? So let's connect some dots. Memento Mori, Latin phrase for remember that you will die. And in the 14th and 15th century, it looked this way. Gravestones, skulls, sometimes with crossbones, sometimes not. Rosaries, wilted flowers, an hourglass, an extinguished candle. I saw this piece a couple of weeks ago in Italy. It was made by the Cognato family, and they've been producing Memento Mori art for 4 generations. Now, this piece was made in 1866. And I mention that to you because when we look at Memento Mori art today, from then, listen, the words that we use to describe it are gruesome, harsh, dark. And the reason for that is, so this is 1866, so when you think of it in a historical perspective, what was happening? Well, in 1820, less than 20% of the entire world's population could read. So when they created art to convey a message, that art had to be significant enough and attention-getting enough to make a difference. They had to give the message without it being accompanied by the written word. Okay, so you know what it looked like back then. Do you think we still have it today? We've still got it today. It just looks different. We didn't leave it in the Middle Ages. We've got Memento Mori all around us. And if you listen carefully, you might be surprised to find that it's at Northgate. Yes. Tim McGraw's song, Live Like You Were Dying. I mean, it is absolutely Memento Mori, right? He gets a diagnosis and he changes almost everything about his life. He goes bull riding, he goes skydiving, he fixes the relationship issues that he needs to fix. It's a good one. And then there's George Strait. The song is Here for a Good Time, and the words are everything. Every day I wake up knowing it could be my last. How true is that? right? Every day. But how many days do we wake up and we actually ask ourselves that question? Is this it? Listen, we don't. We manage to put it away. So George Strait, King George himself, not here for a long time, but here for a good time. So you're hearing Memento Mori, but I want you to know you're also seeing it. Vincent van Gogh, the piece is sunflowers. He loved sunflowers. Painted them 11 times, 11 masterpieces. But in this one, he intentionally painted each one in a different stage of decomposition. He did that to remind us of the whole life cycle. Then he said this about the flowers: they're no less inspiring when they are silently disintegrating. As it relates to that vase of flowers, the ones that are aging, the ones that are starting to droop a little bit, they're not any less important than the ones that are in first bloom. Okay, then there's Frida Kahlo, notorious for sending us messages in her art. Bright colors, watermelon, really happy, viva la vida, live the life. Now, she painted this at a time when her health was deteriorating. And she intentionally sent us the message, hey, you don't know. We don't know. She was surprised that it was coming for her as soon as it was. And so she took this moment to send us a message. The reason we have Memento Mori art is we lost sight of the gift of today. We lost sight of the fact that tomorrow is not guaranteed. Now, the magic happens when you're able to harness the methodology of Memento Mori without a diagnosis. But it doesn't happen very often, does it? But we all do know that diagnosis from a doctor or not, we're all dying, we just don't know when. Okay, so we've looked at a little history and we've talked about a little arts, but I think we need to science this thing for just a sec. Last year, a group of scientists recorded 900 seconds of brain activity using an EEG that changed everything that we know about cognition and brain activity at the time of death. Okay, who has heard that when you die, your life flashes before your eyes? Yeah, we've heard it, right? You have a great big old walk down memory lane. Okay, so here's what they could see. The part that I find most significant are the 30 seconds before and the 30 seconds after their patient's heart stopped beating. In that time, they could see that the brain sensors were illuminated. They could see that he was having a last recall of life. Is that good? Pretty good, right? Okay, it gets better. The doctor went on to say that our brains are likely seeing the happiest times in our lives. Those happiest memories are what we're seeing. We are having that recall of life. Okay, that's really great. Many of you are students, and I know what you're thinking. Student or not, you're thinking, hey lady, that's all great. I like your science, I like your art, I like your history, but I don't have time. I don't have time in my day to put my hands in the air and woohoo, live bigger. But I want you to know, I do know. I've been there. I've been here. I sat in these seats, and if I close my eyes, I can almost feel the pressure that you manage. I know the hard work it took for you to get here. And my Aggie ring reminds me the privilege it is to be here. I want you to consider, though, that the same two ways that you can move through life, eyes open, hands up, or eyes closed, are the same two choices you have in Aggie land. Here it goes like this. Academics are vital. Don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. But if you're on an academic-only path and you never do anything else, that's probably eyes closed. But if you're doing the other things, and I mean fish camp to elephant walk and everything in between, you're having an eyes open Aggieland experience. That's why you're here. You're here to have that. You're here to do all the things. I want you to promise me that you won't leave here without understanding that feeling That feeling that helped you pick to come to school here, that spirit can ne'er be told. Will you promise me that? Yep. You know. Here's what happens. We go through passages in life. And one of the ones that's coming up for you is graduation. You'll have graduation. You'll walk across that stage at Reed Arena, and a passage will have closed, right? I think of it this way. An imaginary set of doors closes behind you after you go through. So you'll have graduation. Then you'll get a great job. Doors will close. You might have a family. Doors will close. You can't look back. You can look back, but you can't go back. So it's really important that you remember that this ride only moves one way. It moves forward. Only you know how you're living today. And if you've accidentally created the habit of living with your eyes closed, you can change it. All you have to do is create a new habit. How do you create a new habit? Repetition. And the best example of repetition that I can think of is the Grand Canyon. I know, pretty good, right? So one of the processes that formed the Grand Canyon was erosion. And that's a process of repetition. One tiny droplet at a time, one subtle curve of the river, and then, this is the simplest explanation of the Grand Canyon you'll ever hear, but ta-da, then you have the Grand Canyon, right? I know. You can do that with awareness. Here's what you're going to do. All you have to do is change a couple of little things. And this isn't anything that you haven't already done. You've created habits for yourself. Are you ready? Habit, you put socks on before you put your shoes on. Habit, you brush your teeth twice a day. And habit, you say howdy. So see, you've already done it. There was a time when you were taught and you learned how to do those things. Now, it's just instinctive. That is exactly what I want you to do with awareness. It's just going to become a reflex. Here's how you're going to do it. You're going to put your devices away. Try not to roll your eyes. We hear it all the time though, right? We've got to do it. Students, here's what you're going to do. Start small. Put it in your backpack when you're walking to class. I hear from my kids when they're walking to class. So everybody in the room except children whose last names are White, put your phones in your backpack when you're walking to class. I want you to look at people. I want you to talk to people. I want you to do fun things. I want you to do hard things. I want you to not stifle your feelings. I need for you to feel them. I want you to embrace the gift of death awareness. And for the love of all things maroon and white, carpe diem. Listen, you don't have to create the Grand Canyon in a day. Start small. Find something new to do on campus. Text an old friend. Text a new friend. Listen, you could Tim McGraw this thing. If you can write a bull, you should do that. But you should do it small. Start small. Before you know it, you will have created a new habit for yourself. I find it interesting that Memento Mori has crossed every timeline, every culture, and every religion. It has reached every corner of our earth. Why? Because death crosses every timeline and every culture and every religion. Death is an absolute. If you remember one thing that I say today, I want it to be this. When you wake up tomorrow morning and you stretch, in that moment, I want you to remember that that's exactly how you should live your life. Armed up, eyes open, fully aware, not numbed out, living the life, riding the ride. Those are the choices that you have. I believe that the 21st century Memento Mori is awareness. Memento Mori plus carpe diem is awareness. You can translate it with me. Remember that you will die, so get out there and seize the day. My goal for you is that you live this life You live it big. You have all the highs and the lows and the twists and the turns, and that you never lose sight of the importance of the ride. Remember, the ride is the most important part. I also want you to remember that ride designers, both those in amusement parks and the one that created our human experience, never intended for you to ride with your eyes closed. My prayer and my hope for you is that you come to the end of this ride, bummed that it's over, but having mitigated enough regret that you leave this life smiling because you rode the heck out of that ride. Okay, show me on 3 how you're going to live from now on. Ready? 1, 2, 3. You got it. Memento Mori, carpe diem. Thanks, and gig 'em.